What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one I want to break down what's going on with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I want to give you guys a very quick update on the markets, how things are going, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull and deposit $500, you're guaranteed 20 free stocks. Deposit $25,000 or more, you're guaranteed 75 of them. And the offer ends very soon in just 2 days. Anyways, let's talk about the market, guys. And by the way, I took a break yesterday. I was away from the charts and everything. It was very, very refreshing, and I feel absolutely amazing. There are no major issues or anything like that. It was just me taking a little break, and I feel just incredible right now. So I'm just going to continue to do my typical schedule. Nothing is changing from here on out, and we'll see how things go moving forward. But for now, let's talk about the markets. Looking at SPY on our 4-hour time frame, we're looking a bit more bullish. We had this low over here at this 493 area. We pushed all the way up to about 507, came down a bit, and then we established a higher low at 497. And since then, it's been trying to break out from here. So it's broken this high. The structure is now starting to uptrend slowly. Now, we also have these supports to be watching for, especially where our EMAs happen to be. And we have a lot of data coming out for the week. So I want to focus on all of that first before I get into more details. But I do want to note that right now, SPY is attempting to break a very, very key level that's very close to this 510 range. If we manage to break through, the SPY is going to go flying much higher. If we lose this and we fail to actually break 510, we could reverse back down and retrace a little bit. So I want to give you guys more details about this and then talk more about these levels and such a little bit later. Let's first go over some important data, break down some news, and then break down the charts. So let me just make it very clear. Tomorrow is going to be Monday, April 29th, 2024 at 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, an hour after the market opens. We have the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index coming out. Very minor data, nothing too crazy. Then at 11:30 a.m., we have the 3-month and 6-month bill auctions coming out. This might cause some volatility in the market, so we'll just have to see what this does. And if this does cause any sorts of moves, I mean, I would say that this is very interesting. I'll have to watch it at least in real time just to see what the reaction is, depending on what the auctions look like. But overall, the market is still likely not going to have the most insane reactions, in my opinion, because this data is very minor. This is like nothing compared to like a CPI report or anything like that. And then as a reminder, I just want to remind everyone that for Wednesday, May 1st, we have the FOMC meeting coming up later on. We have Jerome Powell giving his speech, and what he says will cause a big shift in the markets. So from Tuesday through Thursday, things become very serious in the markets. We have lots of data coming out. Monday is going to be very quiet, so it's going to be the first quiet day of the week, and then everything else will be wild after that. And then for earnings, just as a reminder, Tuesday through Thursday is going to be insane as well. Well, specifically Tuesday and Thursday. All the other days are kind of minor, but starting with Monday, we have SoFi, Domino's Pizza, and just a couple of others. And then we also have Paramount after the market closes. For Tuesday, we have PayPal, we have Amazon, we have AMD and Supermicro. Amazon's going to be a big one. It's going to cause a big move on Wednesday, depending on what we get. And for Thursday, we have Apple. Apple's going to be very important as well. It's going to cause a very, very big move as well. And it's a big market mover, so get ready for that, in my honest opinion. So I'll be talking more about SoFi and the others tomorrow morning once these earnings come out, and we'll see how things go. But earnings are very minor for Monday. Excuse me, they become much more serious for Tuesday through Thursday. Now, moving forward, I just wanted to mention that the fear and greed index is currently at fear. We're still kind of fearful right now. We're getting very close to neutral. If SPY manages to break past 510, I think this could become neutral. There's going to be a big shift in sentiment right now, at least in the markets. So that's going to be very important. I also wanted to note that moving forward, neutral is where the market momentum is right now. It's kind of shifting a little bit. We're starting to see the puts and call ratio starting to decrease more and more, getting closer to neutral because we're seeing a lot of puts being closed as we're seeing bulls stepping in. But this could shift depending on how SPY reacts to a very, very key resistance. And we also have market volatility at neutral. We're approaching our 50 daily moving average on the VIX. So we'll have to see if the VIX bounces here or not. We're at a very, very key support. So if the VIX bounces off 15, this would be because of the market potentially rejecting off our resistance. If the VIX keeps on collapsing, we have a gap to fill well below into like the 12.9 area. So that's going to likely fill if we lose this support, and that's going to be because of the market pushing more. So we're at some very, very critical levels right now. The market's in a very, very interesting place. There's also a lot of news coming out about how the market's kind of like unchanged so far, but I'll be talking more about any pieces of news that come out tomorrow morning because a lot could happen overnight. With that being said, guys, lots of data coming out for the week, not to mention very important earnings. Let's break down these charts without further ado. So on SPY, we have this very important resistance at this 510 area. It's very, very simple to trade this. If it breaks 510, we're going to easily push up to fill this imbalance towards the 512s. I would say the 512 to 513 area is coming. If that breaks, 515 is next. If we manage to break past 510, we're going to easily push higher. If we reject off 510, we're going to be retracing towards our EMAs at 506. And if that fails, if we lose 506, this range right here, we can come all the way down to fill our gap into the 502s. So there could be some downside coming if we end up losing that support. So it's very important that we watch this. We watch and see how it ends up reacting. Losing 505, we turn bearish. Breaking 510, we turn bullish. In my personal opinion, looking at the chart right now, we are still looking a bit more bullish as we're trying to turn right here on our 4-hour time frame. Despite the fact that PCE came in a little bit harder than expected, the market held up very, very nicely, and we're still starting to see a lot more potential being built. So, in my opinion, from a technical standpoint, this is looking more bullish. It looks to me like SPY will likely, in my opinion, maybe gap down tomorrow. Start a little bit weak, maybe retest like 507, and then try to continue to push higher. I favor that this might actually try to push hard thanks to earnings, so we could get another week of pushing, especially if we break this 510 resistance. I could see this thing go all the way up to 513. So for tomorrow, in my opinion, we might kind of gap down a bit, grab a little bit of liquidity right here, then start pushing higher. And I think we could be breaking past 510. I think it's going to be fighting for it, and there's a good chance it might attempt to break it, and then we could push higher, going all the way up to about 513 eventually. Now, let me just say that I'm not 100% convicted on this. We have to see 510 break for confirmation, but the chart favors trying to break that level. For the triple Q, I'm seeing something very similar. Now, what else is developing on this chart is the fact that we have another resistance developing at our 432 area, our 4-hour 200 EMA. Breaking through this, we could be going all the way up to about 434. And if it rejects off this, you're going to be looking at support at about 428. Losing that will take us all the way down to about 425. But when you look at the trend right now, so it's trying to reverse right here. We had this low right here at 413, came up to the 50 EMA, rejected a bit to our key Fibonacci retracement before it continued to push much higher. In my opinion, the chart is building strength. It does have a tight resistance that's going to be fighting for. So I wouldn't be surprised if we actually kind of gap down, come back down to like our 50 EMA one more time, maybe during the pre-market, then start pushing higher. And I think that there's a good chance it's going to try to break this resistance. And if we do break it, we're easily pushing to like the mid 430s, but just to be safe, watch for confirmation. But I am seeing potential in this. One thing that's helping the QQQ is Nvda. Nvda is a monster. Nvda is pushing, and there's no sign of this breaking down yet. In my personal opinion, we got a breakout right here. So we broke this resistance right here at 850. Now our next target is going to be all the way up towards 888, and eventually 900 is going to be a big target. I think that it's going to be attempting to push up there. So I see potential in this to go up to its key level. We also have a history of kind of like shopping between 908 and 892. I think we could easily push up there, and I think that this looks bullish. So Nvidia could help the QQQ a lot more. On top of that, for Tesla, Tesla's very interesting. So the thing about Tesla is Tesla's heavily dictated by the news. The news affects it a lot. One day it could be pushing, the next day there's bad news, it sinks a little bit. So it's all over the place sometimes. But on this chart, what I like is the fact that we're still on an uptrend. We've been uptrending for quite some time. We had this very, very nice choppy range right here before we broke out from that. Now we're retracing a little bit, and we could continue to bounce from here. So I wouldn't be surprised if Tesla actually dips a little bit more. We grab a bit more liquidity at 168, if not 165, to retest our 50 EMA right here. And then we could get a bounce back up into the 170 area. We could be retesting 175 all over again. So I wouldn't be surprised if we dip a little bit, then try to rebound once we get to our key retracement area. And then I think that there's a very good chance we could retest 168, if not 165, then bounce and eventually start pushing back up into the 170s. It's the most likely possibility. But just to be safe, if we do lose 165, we could be dipping all the way down to lower levels like 162 and lower levels like that. And if we break past 170, we could easily go up to 172, then 175. I favor a little dip coming, followed by a bounce. And I think that it's looking pretty good so far. For Aapl is looking pretty good because remember, Aapl has its earnings in just a couple of trading days, and we have a nice uptrend being established. So if we lose the 168.97 area, our 200 EMA, yes, Aapl could come down to 168. If we break past 170, we're easily going to 171 and then eventually higher levels such as 172.5. I'd say the chart looks bullish as we have this imbalance to fill, and there's a good chance Aapl is going to try to push higher. So look for this thing to retest 171 and eventually break out. So I do favor that a bit more. Moving forward, that is it for the main five I typically talk about. But let me just say that right now, the majority of stocks are still looking a bit more bullish heading into the start of the week. Things could change depending on earnings, depending on what happens with Jerome Powell's speech. But as of right now, the charts are favoring the bulls, and the charts look like they want to go higher. That's what I'm seeing for the time being. So we'll just have to see how things go. As a trader, always remember that sometimes you have to be very adaptive to data, and we're in a situation where we have to be like that depending on what we see over the week. But for now, like I said before, the charts remain bullish. Anyways, let's go now and talk about a few other tickers. We have Palantir right over here. Palantir is turning on the 4-hour time frame. We're looking pretty good right now, trying to push higher. Going to be looking for a test of this range right here. It really likes this 23 area. I wouldn't be surprised if we test 22.36 and push higher. If we lose 22.36, we could retrace to 22, but I favor just a touch of that and a bounce all the way up to 23. For Super Micro, we're on a nice push right over here. We're going to be looking at resistance at 863, breaking through this, and this could continue to go up to fill this imbalance in the 930 area. I think it's going to be testing this level right here by tomorrow. The 880 area, previous support becoming resistance. If we break through this, we go higher. If we fail here, we reject. I favorite at least testing 880. Looks pretty good in my opinion. For Rivian's looking a bit more bullish because we're trying to turn on the 4-hour time frame. Watch that 9.1 area. If we break that, we could easily go up towards 9.36. So I favor Rivian attempting to push a bit higher from here. For SoFi, we're breaking out right now, especially after some nice pieces of news that have come out. So SoFi is looking pretty strong at the time. And I just want to note that there is more potential for this. So we have a nice accumulation structure, and we have this imbalance that's about to get filled around 8.5. If we continue to hold above 8, I expect 8.5 to come. If we lose 8, we could retest about 7.93, and then we'll have to see how it goes from there. If that fails us, then we're dipping all the way down to 7.6. I think it might dip a little bit, then start pushing up higher towards 7.5. I'm sorry, 8.5, excuse me, guys. It's still looking bullish nonetheless. For the IWM Russell 2000, we are looking a little bit more bullish because I'm seeing a nice cup and handle like structure. We're seeing buyers kind of stepping in, and I wouldn't be surprised if we test this resistance around this 199 range. Breaking through this would take us up to 200, 200.75, eventually higher levels to this next imbalance at 202. So I think that this looks like a cup and handle, and I think that there's potential to go up to 200. I think that the IWM Russell 2000 could push higher, and I think there's a very good chance that that is going to be the case. So I favor a little bit more upside for the IWM Russell 2000, and I think that there's a very good chance that that could end up being the case. So that's looking pretty good to me. For AMD, AMD is kind of stuck right now. So it kind of dipped a bit, came back up. We're not looking the best. We have to break past 158 for this to start breaking out. If that breaks, I could see this going all the way up to about 163.5. If we reject off 158, look at support at 154. It is trying to push, but we need confirmation first. It's not looking that convincing. So I need to see this thing break for this to really push. We're waiting for that to see if that breaks. For ARM, we're looking kind of flat right now, but if we manage to break past 102, there's going to be a test of 106 potentially. If we lose 100 flats, we could be dipping down towards 97. So I think that there's a very good chance that we could be forming like a very, very nice looking bullish wedge, and we could start breaking out higher. But we need confirmation first. We have to hold our support above 100 and start pushing up towards 106. So I see potential for it to push higher. We're looking bullish on the 4-hour time frame, but I want to see it break its resistance first. For Coinbase, we're looking okay on Coinbase. It just came down quite a bit. It failed to fill this gap and got bought back up. So now we're going to be testing this resistance. I see potential for it to go up to about, it's going to likely retrace first, by the way. I think it's going to be retracing towards 230, and then we might get a bounce back up to 240 from there to fill this imbalance. So look for a little retracement and a bounce, and I find that to be very, very probable. That's just going to be a test of our 50 EMA. I find that to be very probable before it tries to bounce. For Amazon, we're looking decent. We're still trying to hold 180. If it holds this, I could easily see it push towards this wick right here at 181.8. If we lose this support, we're coming down to 177.82. I favor this trying to push up towards basically just under 182. So I do see potential in Amazon to go a little bit higher, especially because it's just before its earnings. For Meta, Meta is trying to turn on the 4-hour time frame, but it's not that great. It could retrace a bit towards 435 again, but if it continues to make higher highs and higher lows, it could retrace a bit and try to bounce. If we break past 450, then yes, it could really push up to 461. But we need to see that break first. So I look for a little retracement first before it tries to bounce and give this a little bit more time. For Microsoft right here has a very, very nice range. We have this resistance at 424. We have support currently at all the way down here at this 388 area. We came down a bit after earnings, then started to bounce. Now we're still kind of stuck right now. So it looks to me like it might turn a little bit lower. We could actually retrace a bit towards 400 before we try to bounce. If we hold above 404, it could bounce right there. But I think that we're going to be testing 404, if not 400, before we try to bounce. So look for a little bit more downside on Microsoft before it tries to rebound. That's going to be key for us. For Google, made a huge move to the upside after earnings. Now we're kind of retracing a little bit, and then I'd be watching, this to come to some very, very key fib levels. So I'm going to actually pull out Fibonacci retracement just to show you guys. If I start from right here, this low right here, you guys could see we got this nice little push from earnings. We're currently trying to hold 171.76. That's our 0.382 retracement. Losing this could tip us all the way down to 168. So I'll be watching that very carefully. And our resistance happens to be at the 0.236 retracement. So it's really holding these Fibonacci levels very nicely. That's at 176. So 176 is resistance. We have support at 171.76. Losing this could take us down to 168. And I do see potential for it to dip a little bit more before it tries to bounce. So look for a little bit more downside before it tries to make that move. For the VIX, well, the VIX is very simple. We're at support right now at 15. That's our 50 daily moving average. If it bounces off that, we're going up to 16.5, then eventually 17. If we lose that, we have a gap to fill all the way down into 12s. So if we end up doing that, I would say that the VIX tends to be kind of delayed. So I wouldn't solely trade SPY based off this or like the S&P 500, because this is just reacting to what happens to the indices. This means that when it comes to the VIX, I mean, I would just use this as like a confluence. If the market starts to bounce nicely, the VIX could dip and fill this gap down here. So I'll be watching to see if that ends up being the case. And I'll be very patient nonetheless. But with that being said, I do believe that we have a big test coming at 15. We'll see if we bounce or not, or if we lose the support, and we'll just be very patient in the process. The 10-year Treasury yield is actually coming down a little bit. We're going to likely test 4.618. That's going to be our 20 EMA. If that ends up being the case, if we lose that support, we could come down to fill this gap here. And if this dips a little bit, this could be a little bullish for the markets. But like I said before, it doesn't matter what this thing does, because what's going to matter more is going to be FOMC. Whatever Jerome Powell says is going to cause a very big move for the indices, not to mention our yields. So that's going to be key. We'll see what Jerome Powell says on Wednesday. That's going to affect this a lot more. Same thing with the dollar. The dollar is kind of stuck right here. It's at resistance at this 106 area. If it rejects here, 105.85 is coming, which would be bullish for the markets. If it breaks through this, it turns back up. That will be bearish for the markets. The dollar came down a bit on Friday, so we'll see if this gets a rejection. If it comes down, that's going to have a big effect on the markets, and so will FOMC and other pieces of data. With that being said, the majority of charts are actually bullish looking. SPY looks a bit more bullish. I do favor upside a bit more, but just to be safe, look for confirmation to see if SPY can break past 510 or not. And then don't forget that despite what happens on Monday specifically, there's a lot more data that's very important for Tuesday, not to mention big earnings for the rest of the week. So that's going to be very, very key, and that's going to also affect our volatility and direction we end up going in. So watch for that, guys. Have a very, very open mind for which way the market could go, and just be open-minded no matter what. I just want to thank you all so much for listening. Thank you guys for the kind comments I got over the weekend. I know I was taking a little bit of a break. It's nothing too serious. I'm not like going through anything that horrendous or anything like that. It's just like working a lot could kind of drain people out sometimes. That's kind of like what happened to me, but I feel absolutely incredible from this point on. I'll continue to give you guys very, very consistent content, all for free, all on YouTube. So don't worry, guys. Everything is going to be fine. Remain calm, cool, and collected no matter what. And I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you for listening, and peace out.